This is Salinas High School's football stadium, locally known as the Pit. Generations of Salinas Cowboys have burst through this tunnel as they begin another football game. Just as in many American high schools, football is the centerpiece of the sports program here at Salinas High. 149 boys played on the 3 teams in 2024. Football is the centerpiece of collective identity here, oftentimes popularly called school spirit, and that hasn't always been the case. As I show in my book, The High School, an analysis of 120 years of Salinas High School's yearbooks, football at the start of the 20th century was a site of a lot of debate and turbulence, as it was across the nation.
The 1904 yearbook trumpeted the success of the school's football team. But by 1911, and echoing similar developments around the nation, including at Stanford University and at UC Berkeley, Salinas High abandoned football for rugby, a game that was deemed to be less tarnished by gambling, spectator violence, on-field violence, injuries, and deaths that had spiked nationally in 1909. In 1921, football returned to Salinas High with great fanfare, and almost immediately seizing the high ground from baseball and track and field as the most popular sport. By mid-century, the football hero had become the paragon of masculinity on campus. The football coach was also elevated as a local hero, none more than Harry Shipke, a former Stanford star who led Salinas Cowboys to several championships in the late 1920s and early 1930s. It was in 1936 that Salinas High built a football stadium that half a century later would be dubbed the Pit. It's probably not a stretch to see this as the house that Shipke built. Corresponding with a low point for girls' sports, the 1950s and the 1960s were a time when football and football players were elevated as exemplars of masculinity like never before and never since. A severe fiscal crisis hit public schools like Salinas High in the 1980s. In response, community groups and campus booster clubs rose up to help support sports, and football was high on the list for support. For instance, the Salinas Rotary Club bought new lights for the stadium in 1985.
In recent years, girls across the nation and here at Salinas High School have started to play interscholastic flag football. Why is it that girls play flag football and not tackle football like the boys? One answer to that question is that many people see tackle football as too violent and dangerous for girls. Critics of that view see this as an echo of protective legislation that kept girls and women out of more competitive public activities in the past. But I think there's another, even more interesting question. If we know that tackle football is dangerous for girls, and now that we know that the repeated bumps to the head contribute to long-term dementia, CTE, why do we tolerate, even celebrate tackle football for boys?
There are 2 answers to this question. First, in a time of feminist progress for girls and women, we have not yet thought as deeply about the limits and health dangers of narrow forms of masculinity for boys and men. And second, schools like Salinas High continue to be deeply invested in football, emotionally and financially. For instance, when the Pit needed new artificial turf in 2003, roughly $700,000 was raised, much of it donations from local agribusiness, to keep the team on its home field.
Football and its accompanying complex of spirit apparatus is at the nexus of the creation of collective pleasure and spirit here at Salinas High School, what they commonly call here purple pride. You can explore the ups and downs of the history of high school football in my new book, The High School.